All right, it's the Week 14 Thanksgiving Day edition of the Phil Steele Show. We are recording this live with you on the Varsity channel on YouTube. Coming at you a little early this week so that everyone can watch this, maybe have your cup of coffee in the morning before a big day of feasting. I'm Trip Hurd. We've got David Kahn, the Hammer. He's here. We've got our guy Phil Steele. We're ready to break down over the next hour or so some of the big games coming up from just a loaded weekend in college football. We've got Navy Memphis tonight, a lot of games tomorrow, then, of course, a full day on Saturday. Phil, Thanksgiving Day, man. How you feeling?
Doing well. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's watching here today. Appreciate you taking time on your Thanksgiving Day to tune in. And just to let you know, the Phil Steele Plus Tour is also up and available. We put that up yesterday, a week or a day early. The tour is 23-13-1 on the selections the last 7 weeks. Quick hitters 33-17-1, 66% over 9 weeks. It's all free. You get 5 selections, 5 quick hitters right now. Just go to philsteele.com, click right on the front menu, and click on the Phil Steele Plus Tour with selections and get yourself 10 free plays for this weekend.
Make sure to check that out. We did have our first losing week on the top 3 in over 2 months last week, but still, last 9 weeks, the record on the top 3, 19-7-1. We're going to get it back on track this week. David Kahn, you've been throwing darts at the wall here. You finally had one miss last week, but you've been on a heater. But I hate to tell you this. If you remember last week, we did have a little lunch wager, and I got you by the hook with Minnesota and Northwestern.
I'm so pissed. I can't believe I lost that one. That was in the bag. It was done. And then it wasn't, as college football often is. Yes, Trip, you got me by the hook. Finnegan's on me whenever you want to go. And listen, I'm still 5 of my last 6 overall in my picks. Phil with Oklahoma -7.5. Yeah. Easy cash. Come on now. Mizzou, no chance. Ahmad Hardy restrained by that Sooners defense. Arkansas, they were in it for a bit. +8.5 against Texas. Yeah. Fell apart late. That's my first loss, though, in my last 6 picks. I'm 11-10 overall on the season, but 5-1 in my last 6. So the Hammer is heating up towards the end of the year.
That's right. That's why they call you the Hammer. Hammer, why don't you take us away to Thursday night? We've got some college football tonight, Navy at Memphis.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Trip. So only game on Thanksgiving. Weird to say that there's only one game on Thanksgiving Day, but it's Navy and Memphis, and it's a huge one in the American Conference, Phil. Memphis favored by 3.5 at home. There's a 3-way tie across the American between North Texas, Tulane, and Navy. But the Midshipmen don't have that tiebreaker against UNT, so they need to win and get some help. For Memphis, not much to play for because they've dropped their last 2 to fall out of the conference race. Really only a chance to end Navy's hopes. What's happening tonight, Phil, on Thanksgiving night?
Well, Memphis is exceptionally tough at home under Silverfield. They rarely lose at home. And you go back to last year's game. Last year was a really good situation for Navy. Memphis had just played Florida State, massive game. They were all fired up for it, beat Florida State on the road. Sorry about that, Trip, but they did. And then the next week, they had to travel and face Navy. Navy was fresh off a bye, so a tremendous situation for Navy. And Navy ended up winning the game. They got a late score after, I believe, an onside kick recovery or something like that and got a 56-44 final. But it was close. It was within 1 score late. Now, this year, you've got Memphis is at home, as mentioned. They're off a bye. They've had extra time to prepare for the option. They're not on a short week celebrating a massive win. So I think we're going to see Memphis's defense do better against Navy. And offensively, I think it gave Brandon Lewis an extra chance to get healthy, get 100% for this game. He'd been hobbling around, especially the Tulane game is nowhere near 100%. They've got Sutton Smith. They've got the receiving core. I think Memphis is the better team, and they're at home. They deserve to be favored in this one. I like the Tigers to cover the spread.
All right, we've got the Egg Bowl coming up at noon tomorrow on Friday. Ole Miss laying around 7.5 is what I've been seeing, which is maybe a little surprising considering the last couple of outings for Mississippi State. But it's a big-time rivalry game. We're going to be saying this every game just about all week. and it's in Starkville, where the Bulldogs are 5-1 against the spread this year. Both teams coming off a bye. There's also a little bit of extra news coming into this week. The whole Lane Kiffin saga, a decision coming after the game on whether he may or may not be coaching there next season. Even with all the extra noise, the Mississippi State defense is what worries me here. We saw Ahmad Hardy just have a field day against those guys. No reason to think Lacey couldn't do the same thing, but so much extra noise, so much extra baggage coming into this. You think the Bulldogs can keep it close here, Phil?
Yeah, it wouldn't be one of my top plays of the week, but I would lean with Mississippi State just due to all the off-field stuff with Kiffin. And, if you're a player from Mississippi and your coach hasn't come out and said, hey, I'm staying, now
Right.
you're like, well, I don't know. Is he leaving? It seems like he's leaving. And you got to wonder about the whole, just the thought process, all the extra thoughts put into it, as you mentioned. And Mississippi State has played well at times. You go back to the Texas game, they led that by, I think, 17 points. Tennessee, they could have beat at home. It's a rivalry game. I usually like to side with rivalry dogs in that case, and they have done extremely well. So I'm going to lean with Mississippi State. I think it's mostly 7.5s out there.
Yeah.
I'll make sure you shop around, get that 7.5, and I'm going to lean with Mississippi State plus some points.
Yeah, as we've all learned throughout the season, and I unfortunately learned last week, those half points, Phil, very crucial when you're making bets. Very, very crucial. All right, let's go to the Big 12. Number 13, Utah at Kansas, also a noon game on Friday. The Utes heavy favorites in Lawrence by 10.5, but they do not control their own destiny. They need a win. They need a loss by Texas Tech and wins by BYU and Arizona State just to get to the Big 12 title game. Utah, though, red hot, Phil, winning their last 4. Kansas, been downtrodden, right? They've dropped 4 of their last 5. They just need a win for bowl eligibility. So what weighs more on Friday in Lawrence?
I'm going to go with Utah on this one. Now, the concern would be Utah's defense. And I'm going to go back to 2 weeks ago. It was sort of not noticed because Utah won the game over Baylor handily. But they gave up 563 yards to Baylor and 28 first downs in that game. Then last week, Kansas State, mostly big plays. Once they broke through the line, they were gone. And they had like 4 of those during the game. Only 21 first downs, but 574 yards. So Utah's got to get the defense fixed. I think they've got too much talent on the defensive side of the ball to play that poorly again. But that would be my concern in this game, especially Kansas has weapons like Jalen Daniels at QB. And Highshaw at the running back spot. But Utah's offense is tough to defend. You got Dampier and Ficklin, a potent combo at quarterback. Both these guys dangerous runners, and they're just laying it on everybody. And Kansas's rush defense can be had. In fact, in Big Ten play, they're allowing 5.3 yards per carry. So I think Utah's score, and it's going to be tough for Kansas to keep up with them. The spread's under 2 touchdowns, so I'm going to take Utah minus the points here.
All right, how about Georgia and Georgia Tech in the bins? 3:30 kick on Friday. Dogs favored by a couple of touchdowns here. I'm seeing like 13.5 right now. And man, Georgia Tech's defense has just evaporated on them. I mean, they really don't have a lot of momentum coming into this game. Georgia kind of feels the exact opposite. It feels like they're starting to peak, starting to play some of their best ball at the right time. I've said repeatedly on this show that they're not a defensive team this season, but it's actually been pretty good the last month or so. I mean, not really even factoring last week with Charlotte, but they helped Texas to 10. They gave up 21 to Mississippi State, but that game was over pretty early. I've been on Tech all year. I really thought this was going to be a great game. You told me a couple months ago I could get the Yellow Jackets and 2 touchdowns. I would have been all over it, but not so sure anymore. Really strong Georgia offense here against that defense might be bad news for the Jackets. What do you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, and, if you asked me at the start of the year who I liked in this game, it would have been Georgia Tech because, Brent Key last year, they had a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter against Georgia, ended up losing that thing in 7 overtimes. So when I talked to Coach Key after spring practice was over this year, he could tell you how many days it was to the Georgia game. So this is the most important game on his schedule this year. But the defense is struggling. And for Georgia, you look at their defense this year, they're actually holding opponents to 89 yards or 99 yards per game, below their average, which is number 13 in the country. They had one really bad game, the Tennessee game. They gave up 496 yards. Other than that, they played great. I mean, Alabama only got 24 points on them, and they're playing extremely good down the stretch. They don't have the star power of past Georgia additions, but this is a legitimate defense that's got better and better each week. I like to side with the defense. Also, when you look at them offensively, they're running the football well with Nate Frazier and company. Gunnar Stockton, in my mind, is a Heisman candidate. I think you're going to see him emerge as a Heisman candidate in this game and if they get to the SEC title game. So as much as I would have said Georgia Tech, just like you said, Tripp, at the start of the year, I got to lean a little bit with Georgia, minus the points here, just because they have a massive defensive edge. And they're not going to look past Georgia Tech. They do not have the SEC game locked up like they did last year. And they also know that they went to 7 overtimes and were fortunate to escape last year. So I look for Georgia to play its A game this season.
Yeah.
I want 15 overtimes this year.
15. Well,
15.
It's fun. I was going to say this isn't like a revenge spot because they won the game last year, but it might kind of be a revenge spot just because of the way the game went down.
Yeah,
good call.
It could be. It could be. All right, let's go to the Lone Star State for the Lone Star Showdown. It's number 3 Texas A&M at number 16 Texas. The Aggies, looking for that undefeated regular season, still need this win to ensure they play in Atlanta. If they lose, Georgia's in, so no looking ahead for Texas A&M to the CFP. Of course, another revenge factor here, like you just brought up, Texas A&M trying to get revenge on Texas for last year's result. Texas, meanwhile, Arch Manning, Phil, he's on the come-up. 6 touchdowns in total last week against Arkansas, and the Longhorns have won 4 of the last 5. It's Texas A&M by a hook under a field goal on the road. What do you got, 7:30 in DKR?
Yeah, I'm going to lean with the home dog in this one, although Texas A&M does have one significant advantage here, and that's at the offensive line. They've got one of the best offensive lines in the country, Joe Moore Award candidate. Texas's offensive line struggles, so that concerns me a little bit, but both teams have a good defense. Both teams have a solid quarterback. Arch Manning just seems to be getting better and better by the week. 393 yards passing last week. The 6 touchdowns include a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown, which was really something. And they're at home. They're playing loose. Texas A&M has got that unbeaten pressure going for them. I like Texas as a home underdog here, so I'm going to lean. And by the way, Texas A&M's wins this year, they have not defeated an SEC team that currently has a winning record in SEC play. And 4 of the teams I believe they played have already fired their coach. So I think this is a step up in competition for Texas A&M.
Yeah, Texas is playing pretty good ball right now. I would also lean Longhorns in that one. Let's wrap up then on Friday. Got a 9 o'clock kick. Arizona State. I told you early this season, I love Georgia Tech. Over 7.5 wins. Another team I really liked on that team total was Arizona State. Theirs was 8.5. And if you can believe this, after all the crap they've been through, missing a quarterback, Levitt, missing Jordan Tyson for a good chunk of the season, Sun Devils could still do it. And if BYU loses, they've got a shot to get back to the Big 12 title game. I think we're going to see Jeff Sims again this week. On the other side, Arizona, nice win, good cover against Baylor. They won 4 in a row straight up. And the pass defense for the Wildcats really slowed down. Sawyer Robertson, they slowed down a couple of weeks ago. Brendan Sorsby, back-to-back weeks. I'm thinking maybe this could actually be an under game here, the way the defense is playing. But it's Friday night. Arizona State's at home. They've got a chance to get a win over the Wildcats, possibly get back to the Big 12 title game. Very tight line here. I'm seeing 1.5 that Arizona's favored by.
Yeah, and the thing that surprises me a little bit is the line in this game, because if you go back and you look at the fact Arizona State is the defending champ in the Big 12, as you mentioned, they've got a shot at 9 wins. They're at home. Both teams have the same record. You would think Arizona State would be at least a 3-point favorite in this game, and here they're an underdog. But maybe Vegas knows what they're talking about. The only concern I would have with your total, and I do like the logic of the total, and I'd probably lean under myself, is this is basically an over series. I'm looking at my philsteele.com right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 14 of the last 17 in this series have gone over the total. So generally, when these two line up, they throw the stuff out and just let it go. Probably the matchup I like best here in Arizona's favor is what you touched on. It's a pass defense. Arizona is number 1 in my pass D rankings this year, and Jeff Sims has been sort of. Maybe they've had a leash on him a little bit. He's only got 2 interceptions. We know Jeff Sims is an interception machine, going back to Georgia Tech, going back to Nebraska. And I think if he's matched up against Arizona's offense, which, as you correctly pointed out, slowed down Sorsby, slowed down Robertson, I like that Arizona pass D against Arizona State. So I think Fafita gives you a large edge at quarterback. He's got a 25-5 ratio. Maybe Vegas knows what they're doing here. I'm gonna side with Vegas, even though you would think Arizona State should be favored. I'll side with Arizona, especially since you're not even laying a field goal in this one.
Yeah, Vegas does tend to know what they're doing, unfortunately, for a lot of us, because we like to think we're smarter than Vegas, and we're just not. Let's go to Saturday, Phil. Huge one to start. It's the game, literally the game. So big that they delay kickoff by 15 minutes to get it started. 12:15 kick. Number 1 Ohio State at number 15 Michigan. Heck, they might delay this till 12:22 because they got to get all the pregame.
That's a good number.
Yeah, 12:22. Over under 12:21:30. All right, put your bets in now. Number 1 Ohio State at number 15 Michigan. Buckeyes favored by 9.5 or 10. Phil, this one's always a really tough one to pick, especially with what's gone down the last few years. Michigan's won the last 4. Tough game to decide here, isn't it?
Yeah, bowl games are the same way. When they say, "Oh, the kick's at 8," you're like, "It's not starting till 8:30 for God's sake." So don't tell me the kick is at 8. But it doesn't bother me quite as much as it does during the regular season, because in the regular season, the 12 o'clock games run into the 3:30 game, and now the 20-minute runway that you gave, all of a sudden has got a game backed up. Then you're trying to watch this, then they say it's on a different channel. It's just a mess. When you're trying to watch 12 games. Games that don't start on time really bother me, but I digress. Let's talk about the game here. When you got Ohio State, everybody knows they've lost 4 in a row to Michigan, and the key is Michigan's run game here. If they can run the football, and I do expect Jordan Marshall to return this week. He didn't play last week. I thought Cousino did a good job running the football against Maryland. They ended up what was expected to be a closer game with a look ahead to Ohio State. They just ran the ball down their throat and even threw 200 yards passing as well. I don't think you can rely on Bryce Underwood throwing the football against Ohio State's defense to have success. They need to establish the run. And their offensive line was maligned early, but is a Joe Moore Award contender. So I think they have the offensive line that could possibly control this game. They've got the confidence level. They've won the last 4. They've outplayed Ohio State at the line of scrimmage. In a good portion of those games, and they're at home, and they're a big dog. So you got a rivalry dog at home, a lot going on Michigan. Ohio State just covers the spread every single week. They're playing great defense, best defense in the country. Matt Patricia's doing a tremendous job as DC, holding opponents to 170 yards below their average. You've got Sayan, a quarterback who's completing nearly 80% of his passes. You got 2 of the best receivers in the country. I do expect both Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate to play. They've missed the last game and parts of the others, but I think it's going to be a great game. Now, I find it tough to call, so I'm going to let one of you two guys pick this one.
I'm going to take this one. You brought up a lot of great points there, Phil. I will say Julian Sayin, as long as he has a Julian Sayin game, is going to set like the completion percentage record for a regular season. He's been unbelievable, like 79% completion. It's amazing stuff. I do want to start off with
too.
Yeah, exactly. I want to start off with a trivia question, though, for you, Phil. How many top 25 teams combined have Ohio State and Michigan faced this year?
I believe Ohio State's faced 2 this year.
That's correct. Texas and Illinois. Yep. And
I would
Michigan
say
has
played more.
Michigan has played 1.
Wow.
Oklahoma at number 18, week 2 of the season. So what does that mean? It means that this is their toughest test of the season for each of them, as number 1 Ohio State at number 15 Michigan. Now, Ohio State's not in the Big Ten title game yet. They would be with a win. Michigan also still alive for Indianapolis. They need help along with a win against Ohio State. The Wolverines, though, red hot. They've won 5 in a row after that loss at USC. However, you bring up the lofty spread. It's 9.5 or 10, depending on where you look. Michigan is a home underdog this year, 0-2 against the spread. And you mentioned that Ohio State is a spread covering machine at 9-1. And all you have to do is just look at that vaunted Ohio State defense. They haven't given up more than 16 points all year. And yes, the most they gave up was number 17, Illinois. Michigan, I think, holds a little more water than that. But Ohio State's offense is still surging. You look at these numbers, they haven't put up less than 30 since week 4 against Washington. So I'm going to take Ohio State -10 here cautiously. Not my top play of the week, but I'll roll Buckeyes on the road by 10. Ryan Day breaks the streak.
You said Michigan was 0-2 as a home dog. That was incorrect.
Oh.
They've not been a home dog all year.
Well, what numbers did I get?
They were a dog at Oklahoma, and they were a dog at USC. So those are the 2 dog games for Michigan this year that they lost. So dog would have been correct, but home dog not correct.
You're right. I was looking at underdog, not home dog. You're right. Yep, you're right. But I'm still going Ohio State.
I do think Michigan's played the tougher schedule because they have played USC on the road. USC wasn't maybe not ranked at that time, but worthy of being a ranked team. They also played Nebraska on the road. They played Washington at home. They Ohio State's played. Here's an interesting thing. Last week's rankings for the CFP, Ohio State had defeated 2 teams in the rankings. Well, Wisconsin had defeated 2 teams in the rankings. So, but I agree with you 100%. Both teams have played schedules that have been very manageable. So, good call there, David. We'll see how it rolls.
Yeah, you kind of fooled me. I thought you were leaning Michigan there early, the way you set that up, but that was nice. You kind of teased it and then flipped it over. No, that's good. I kind of like the Buckeyes too. I think I would have to lean with them in that one on Saturday. Let's jump to the ACC. Gotta respect what Pitt did last week, picking themselves kind of up off the mat after that Notre Dame game. They win in Atlanta last week against Georgia Tech. Now they get Miami in for a visit, and the Hurricanes about a touchdown favorite on the road. 6.5 is the line I'm seeing right now.
7.
7 is a pure 7. Okay. It's going to be cold up there on Saturday. They're seeing possible snow flurries. So I'm just picturing, Carson Beck in his Lamborghini putting snow chains on there, trying to drive through Pittsburgh to get himself to the game. But yeah, Miami's going to be probably a little uncomfortable. The bridges ice over first, Carson. So just be careful. We know the Canes have got to win here. They can't afford another loss. On the other side, Mason Heinchel, he had some help last week. Kyrian Turner, 200 on the ground. I haven't heard about Desmond Reed this week, if he could go or not, Phil. I don't know if you have an update on that, but not a terrible spot for the Panthers, especially Kyle Lewis. That defense, they're getting healthy on that side of the ball.
Yeah, the linebacking core looks like it's in full health, which is huge for Pitt. They've got one of the best linebacking cores in the country. I think the weather will be a factor. I live in Cleveland. Pittsburgh's just a little bit over there. It's going to be 30s and cold and snow. So, yeah, you've got the weather will clearly favor Pittsburgh in this one. Defenses are close. Offensively, Heinchel and company, since he took over as the starting quarterback, take away the Notre Dame game, they've been really good all year. So Miami's a quality team, but I think the weather, the home field edge, a lot of factors in Pitt's favor here. And, the Notre Dame game, I'm throwing out. Like Narduzzi said, I thought coming into it, it was a meaningless game. If Pitt beat Georgia Tech and Miami, that was their only chance of making the playoff. They need to somehow get into that ACC title game, win it, and get to the playoff. They're going to need a little bit of help to do so. But I like Pitt plus the 7 at home. And you were saying there are some 6.5s out there. So shop around, get the full 7 to feel comfortable.
Yep.
All right. Sticking in the noon slate in the Big 12, Houston at Baylor. The Bears looking to become bowl eligible, but facing a Houston team, Phil, that has been perfect on the road. And this really pits strength on strength. You got Houston's really good run game versus Baylor's really good run defense. Baylor favored by 2.5 at home. Pretty typical casual line. Nice job by Vegas. Just chuck that one up there, whatever. We're not really sure here. What do you got in this one, Phil?
Dave Aranda's defense, especially early on in the year, really bothered me. I mean, they were giving up loads of points, loads of yards every single game, but they've actually tightened it up. Last 4 games, they're only giving up 360 yards, and they've held their opponents the last 4 games to 72 yards per game below their average. Their one game, Utah, they gave up 483 yards. They actually held Utah below their season average. So they're actually playing good defense now. And you look at the weapons they have offensively. You got Bryson Washington at running back. Now, when Pendergrass, remember last year they had the Washington and Dawson Pendergrass combo at running back. When Pendergrass went out for the year in August, I wondered who would pick up the slack, and nobody really did. Well, Caden Knight has emerged as that other running back. So now they got two solid running backs. You look at the receiving core, you got Josh Cameron at wide receiver, along with Hawkins. Those are two very dangerous wide receivers. Michael Trigg, one of the best tight ends in the country. He's up for the Mackey Award. And this is a dangerous Baylor team, and they're at home. With Houston, you talked about the road wins. The Oregon State game, they were lucky to come out of there with the win. And then the Kansas game, they won by a field goal. They lost to West Virginia at home. They haven't been blowing me away recently. Even the TCU game this last week, their very reliable kicker missed like 3 field goals against TCU, and they ended up losing by 3. So I think right now, in current form, Baylor is playing better. I like the Bears to get this one at home, and I like the fact they're laying less than a field goal.
All right, we've got another game where we didn't really think this would be the situation coming into the season. Clemson and South Carolina, both teams very disappointing seasons, no chance at a playoff. Phil, I was a little surprised when I saw the Gamecocks favored here, even being at home. But you look at the strength of schedule on your side, I think South Carolina is all the way up to number 4 in schedule, strength of schedule. Clemson way down the list, 64. South Carolina, a couple points higher on the AGG too. I'm seeing South Carolina minus 3.5 right now, but Clemson has won 3 in a row. They've got a little momentum. Shane Beamer, he might still be in College Station trying to find that 28-point lead they had a couple weeks ago. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, looking at the two teams this year, I think Clemson has more talent. And at the start of the year, I had Clemson right up there with everybody else. Had them in the top 5. They just have so much talent on this squad. South Carolina had a defense that was sort of depleted. I mean, they lost 6 of their 7 from the defensive front 7. And offensively, I mean, they have Lenore Sellers, but they don't have a really good offensive line. They don't have any wide receivers, although Nick Harbor is finally starting to emerge as a wide receiver, not just a track guy. And the running backs are sort of average. So I think Clemson's got more talent coming into the game. The thing I really like here is the visitor absolutely dominates this series. The visitors actually covered the last 7 in a row. And as you mentioned, if Clemson's getting 3.5 here, you got to like Clemson. So I was concerned about the strength of schedule, just like you, the AGG, those things are all in South Carolina's favor. But watching the two teams, I think Clemson's got more talent, and I see them winning on the road. And they're playing with legitimate revenge. Remember last year, they sort of had that game won, and then Lenore Sellers turned into Superman. All of a sudden, on like a 4th down, he would run for 30 yards and then got the game-winning touchdown at the end. I think Clemson does get the revenge in this one.
All right, sticking in the 12 o'clock window, last game of the noon slate on Saturday, Kentucky at Louisville. The Cardinals favored by 3.5 in a battle of the Bluegrass. But, Phil, both these teams are really struggling, so kind of tough to have a feel in this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is for me. So this is one of the games I'm going to throw up to you guys and let one of you guys pick because, when you look at Louisville, I really haven't been impressed with Louisville in one game this year. That was when they beat Miami. Other than that, I mean, at home, when they played James Madison, they were outplayed. I thought James Madison was a better team that day. They overcame double-digit deficits against both Pitt and Virginia Tech. Now, last week, they were playing with one arm tied behind their back. Miller Moss was out. Isaac Brown was out. Keon Brown was out. And they were taking on a streaking SMU team. I had SMU as one of my top plays of the week in press box and absolutely love that game because I love games where after the first quarter's over, you're like, I got this. I don't really have to worry about it. And that was the game. SMU just dominated them. But I think they'll be healthier this week. And when it comes to Kentucky, they had been playing a lot better. Cutter Boley, you look what he did in a couple of games, like against Florida. And it seemed like he was emerging. And then last week, they just got smacked by Vanderbilt. It wasn't even a close game. This is a rivalry game. Should be interesting. I'm dying to hear which one of you guys is going to step out and make a big play here.
I'm going to step out and make the big play in this one, Phil. Tripp's too scared to pick the Battle of the Bluegrass. He told me before the show. So I'm going to step up and be the big boy here. I'm going to make it nice and simple here. It's Louisville by 3.5 at home. Yeah, that's too much. If it's under a field goal, I go with the Cardinals. But I'm going to take the Wildcats on the road to cover because of exactly what happened to me last week. I took Northwestern by 3 and a hook at home, and it got me. I'm not getting got by the hook this week when Louisville wins by a field goal, okay? Kentucky by 3.5. Now, we do need to mention Louisville has lost 3 in a row. Miller Moss's status is still up in the air after missing that SMU game. He's still questionable on the current injury report. Kentucky did get whacked by Vandy, so both these teams are struggling. But take a look at Louisville as a home favorite this year, Phil. They're 0-7. Kentucky plus 3.5. Done.
Good. There you go.
Oh, I kind of want to put that lunch back into another wager here, but I'm just gonna leave it alone. I don't like it enough to go there.
Bring it.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought David made a good case there. Good logic on that one.
All right, let's jump to Conference USA. Western Kentucky gave LSU a run for their money last week, 13-10 final. Now on the road again at Jacksonville State, a game where I think the winner should be in the conference title game. Both these teams 6-1 in conference play last year. If you remember, WKU won the regular season finale, 19-17. Then they turned around and got blown out by Jacksonville State in that title game, 52-12. It's opposing styles here. Jacksonville State, such a good running attack. You know they're going to come out, try to play smash mouth football. And we know the Toppers with McIver, they're going to try to get it done through the air. Another tight line here. Last I saw, WKU actually a road favorite by 2.5. What side do you like on this, Phil?
Yeah, and going back to last year when they played that game that Western Kentucky won to get to the CUSA title game, keep in mind Jacksonville State already had the title game clinched. Western Kentucky needed a win to get to the title game, and as it was, they needed a late score to beat Jack State. And then the next week, Jack State gave their full effort and just smacked them at home. It is a completely different Jack State team, new head coach, but they've been playing great. Cam Cook, one of the best running backs in the country. In fact, he's leading the nation in all-purpose yards. He's got 1,451 yards rushing. He's also got over 200 yards receiving. He's well worth watching this one. Jacksonville State's almost unbeatable at home as well. They've got a great home win streak. They're great as a home dog. They've got a lot of good factors going for them. Now, last week, it wasn't even McIver. It was Tisdale, a quarterback for WKU. I do think McIver's got a shot at coming back. But I like home underdogs with a better run game. I'm going to take Jack State in this one.
Yeah, you love to see that. All right, back to the SEC, 3:30 window. LSU at number 8, Oklahoma. This line's fluctuated a little bit. It was 10.5. I'm seeing 10 in some books. Again, folks, shop around, get the good number. Neither of these teams are in the running for Atlanta, but Oklahoma, they're trying to get in that CFP. The Sooners, really good defense. We saw that on display last week against Missouri when they shut down Ahmad Hardy. They lead the nation in sacks per game, and we know how inconsistent that LSU offense has been, Phil, especially with Garrett Nussmeier being beat up. He's missed the last 2 games. What do you got here in Norman with Oklahoma trying to get into the CFP?
Yeah, it should be Michael Van Buren for this one. And, I do a weekly show in Baton Rouge, and last week, I was making the case for LSU. I was like, I tell you what, West Kentucky's got a massive game on deck against Jacksonville State. This game's meaningless. They need to beat Jacksonville State to get to the CUSA title game. We've seen Coach Helton in games against big teams basically lay down the second half. Their defense is allowing opponents 52 yards per game above their average. LSU's offense has been struggling all year, but this is the game they're going to emerge and blow them out. I like LSU big in their final home game at home in Death Valley. And the host goes, well, Phil, it's Matt Moscone, by the way, one of the better knowledgeable hosts do shows with. And he goes, I tell you what, if LSU's offense scores 24, I'll be surprised. And so what that tells you is LSU's offense against a weak defense at home in Death Valley, a meaningless game for that team, couldn't even move the ball. Now they're taking on Oklahoma's defense on the road. Enough said. I'm taking the Sooners in this one.
All right. We got another big game in that 3:30 slate too. Oregon on the road at Washington this week. in a game that could secure the Ducks a spot in the playoff and all that stuff. Really. And I mean, they looked good last week with a cover against USC, but Washington is they've got a dangerous offense with Damon Williams. Huskies are very tough to beat at home. Last 10 in this series is a 5-5 split. Washington had that really bad loss at Wisconsin a couple weeks back, but all of a sudden, Wisconsin's playing better. So that doesn't look as bad. It's going to be senior night. This is an old Pac-12 rivalry, and these two teams do not like each other at all. It's a tough call here because I can see people looking at the line, 6.5. Oregon's favored by 6.5, and they're thinking under a touchdown, we're getting some value there. But I could also see Washington just winning this game straight up. What's your read on this one, Phil?
Yeah, I think it's a dangerous game for Oregon, no doubt about it. And you look at the fact that Dan Lanning has had troubles against Washington. Washington's actually won 3 of the last 4. He had a lot of games, close losses. I do like the way Oregon is playing. They are banged up in the receiving corps, though. Sadiq returned, and he is a John Mackey Award final or chance to be a finalist in that. They've got Dante Moore, but they still have a banged up receiving corps. Meanwhile, I go back to the Wisconsin game with Washington. Jonah Coleman was banged up. Boston, their top receiver, banged up. Those guys are all fully healthy now. Washington's offense ready to go. And you hit it right on the head. Washington's 2 different teams, home and away. Last week, I liked UCLA because of that. The fact that Washington just struggles on the road, but at home, they're unbeatable. Well, they even beat UCLA on the road last week. So they're playing good in both areas. A dangerous offense. I think it's a very dangerous game for Oregon. And right now, Ducks got to feel pretty confident. Yeah, we're going to make the playoff. I can see a scenario where they lose this game and don't make the playoffs, so they better come prepared. I'll take the points with Washington. I think Oregon's going to have their hands full in this one.
All right, back to the SEC, 3:30, battle line rivalry, Mizzou at Arkansas. Rumors swirling right now about possibly Alex Golesh to Arkansas. Saw that rumor drop out last night. We'll see how true that is. But, Phil, Mizzou favored by 2.5 at Arkansas. And this is another interesting one to pick because we know Mizzou's kind of had their run game, which really has been their bread and butter. Ahmad Hardy, kind of bottled up the last few weeks, especially in SEC play. They've had quarterback questions with Bo Pabula being banged up. So what do you feel in this one? This is another one that I really don't know how to get a good feel for.
Yeah, and I'm hoping one of you guys does have a good feel for it. I think when I look at it, I do see some advantages for Missouri in the fact that if you look at Ahmad Hardy's stats for the season against the 5 toughest defenses he's faced, he has not topped 100 yards. But against a defense like Arkansas, he can come to life. He had like 300 yards against Mississippi State 2 games ago and looks great. Like their first 5 games of the season, they were taking on some weak teams, and he was a Heisman candidate at that point. So I think Hardy probably will have a good game, and defensively, massive edge for Missouri as well. Now, on the flip side over here for Arkansas, their advantage would be, hey, their offense is almost unstoppable. Once again, they had a big game last week, 517 yards against Texas. They put up over 500 yards against Texas A&M. Now, Taylon Green got injured late in that game. KJ Jackson put in the final 2 touchdowns for Arkansas. I'd like to have a healthy Taylon Green for this one. I do think it'll be a higher scoring game. Arkansas's at home, playing with legitimate revenge. If you watch last year's game, it was played in the snow, which is unusual for Missouri this time of year. Arkansas had the ball late, had a chance to win, didn't get it. They've had a lot of close losses in the series. I'm throwing it up to one of you two guys. Who you like?
So Tripp's gonna pick this one. I do want to say though that I don't have a side here, but I would take the over. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, I think that somebody out there has some kind of information on Taylon Green, because when you've got Arkansas involved in a football game and the total's not over 60, I'm thinking, what's going on here? What's happening? Because it's 55.5. So maybe Taylon Green is a little banged up, but I like the side for Missouri here, especially under a field goal. And Phil, we've talked about this before. Missouri, it seems to be the big games, the big spots against ranked teams where they struggle. They normally take care of business against the teams that they're supposed to beat. And a 2-win Arkansas team, I think, is a team that they should be able to beat. Under the field goal at 2.5, I would go with the Tigers here.
There you go. Tripp, is that one of your locks of the week there, Tripp?
No, but it's it's a lean. That's one of my leans of the week.
You can't make this a lock of the week when you got Arkansas losing 9 in a row, Missouri dropping 3 of their last 4. No way, Trip. You gotta think smarter than that.
And hey, I do think Arkansas does want to get that conference win very bad. I mean, the team has not quit by any means there. And you see Texas last week. Texas finally starting to look like the Texas we thought we were going to get at the beginning of the season. And Arkansas was back and forth with them for a half.
It was 21-20, and Texas got a field goal in the last play of the half to make it 24-20.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it in the SEC. We've got Vanderbilt looking for their first ever 10-win season on Saturday, 3:30, but it's in Neyland Stadium, Tennessee. They've owned this series, but this isn't the same old Vandy team here. Vols are favored by 2.5, and they just love to put the nail in the coffin of the playoff hopes for the Commodores. Here, we got a great quarterback matchup with Pavia and Aguilar, guys who get it done in completely different ways, but 64.5 is what I had. I think that was my Monday or Tuesday note. I think this over is, or I think the total is quite a bit higher than that now. I want to say I saw like 66. Let me pull it up here real quick and see what the current one is. Yeah, 65 and a half. Yeah. It's gone up a point. I think maybe it got to 66 yesterday, but it should be a great game. Very entertaining game. Tennessee's already lost 2 games at home. Very close games, but hard to think they're going to drop a third. And Vandy, they're dealing with some pressure here, Phil. That's kind of a new thing for Vanderbilt, but like I said, not the same old Vanderbilt team. What do you like in this one?
Yeah, and this one is probably a David special for all the talk he's had about 3.5 points here. I think Vanderbilt probably is the slightly better team coming in. I love the way Pavia's got this team rolling. And I also like the Pavia versus the Tennessee secondary matchup. 4 times this year, Tennessee secondary has allowed over 300 yards. I think he's going to put some points on the board. On the flip side of the coin, I think Tennessee put some points up. We saw 2 weeks ago, Auburn put up a ridiculous amount of points on Vanderbilt's defense. So I think higher scoring game in this one. I know coming in, I was sort of torn, and I'm like, okay, it's a toss-up game to me. I'm going to make Tennessee by 3. And then as the spread has escalated and got over 3.5, you got Diego Pavia as an underdog. I'll take him at the 3.5, but you have to be getting the 3.5. I got Tennessee winning the game by 3, and I think it's going to be a really good football game, a fun one to watch.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Let's jump back to the ACC. I've talked about this a lot this year. The job that Jake, what does that say?
Anchor down, baby.
Anchor down.
Anchor down.
Yeah, you're with Vandy too. Okay,
absolutely. Phil is exactly right.
I know I got Hartzell's rooting for Vandy because that's been his team all year. He's been on that Vandy wagon. Back to the ACC. I've talked about Jake Dickert a lot and the job he's done at Wake Forest. So you talk about low expectations coming into the season. If Wake can beat Duke on Saturday, they'll get to a bowl game. If they could win a bowl game, that would be a 10-win season for Wake Forest, which is mind-blowing to think about, going back 2 or 3 months there. They were underdogs, albeit slight underdogs earlier this week. Not anymore. I'm seeing Wake is favored now by 1.5 in Durham. Wallace Wade, Duke coming off a crazy, rivalry game against UNC. They win. They had the fake field goal play. Could be a little bit of a letdown spot for Duke here, Phil. What do you think about this one?
To me, it's a pretty tough one to call. You've got Duke is at home. What'd you say the line was on this one?
I'm seeing Wake by 1.5.
Wow. Okay. I think Wake is playing better football right now. You look at Duke, their defense, the defensive line was dominant early. Remember the Illinois game, and especially in the first half. But the defense has been giving up over 500 yards per game. Basically, the last 4 games has been struggling in that area. They do have Darian Mensah. Wake Forest is a defensive team, though. They have a large defensive edge here. In fact, on the year in conference play, Duke is allowing opponents 33 yards per game above their average. Wake is holding teams to 84 yards per game below. So they play great defense. They have a conservative offense. I think Claiborne is the key to the offense. Should be fairly healthy for this one. I find it a tough one to call, but I'm going to lean a little bit with Wake Forest in this game. But if one of you guys has a stronger opinion on it, you let me know.
I did give you a bad line. Yesterday, Wake was favored by 1.5. Currently, Duke is now a 1.5 point favorite.
Ooh.
So the line has switched again. But yeah, my lean was Wake Forest here.
All right.
I mean, I think they've been undervalued all season long. And Duke is, as I've learned my lesson with the Blue Devils, they're a hard team to trust. They've got turnover issues and things like that. I do think Duke is a good team, but also we know living down here in North Carolina, like the rivalry is Duke and UNC. That was a huge game for Duke. They had a lot. So I do think it's a little bit of a letdown spot here. I would lean Wake Forest in that one.
There you go.
How about that fake punt?
That was
Fake
awesome.
field goal.
Just
fake.
awesome.
You're right.
Fake
Fake
field
field
goal,
goal.
yeah.
Oh, that was incredible. But and also David Shoemate with a remarkable call,
The
as
best.
always.
The
The
best.
best. All right, let's go out west. Battle for the victory bell at 4:30. UCLA at number 17, USC. The Trojans trying to rebound after falling against Oregon. They could get their running back, Wayman Jordan, back to boost their very explosive offense, though, Phil, it's against a very stout UCLA run defense. Meanwhile, for the Bruins, they just want to snap a 4-game skid, close the year on a high note before the closet's wiped clean in the offseason. USC, heavy favorite in this rivalry by 21.5. Can the Trojans cover that big spread?
Yeah, I think the number is probably legitimate in this one. I know after watching UCLA just mail it in the second half against Washington, I was like, boy, USC off a loss. They're going to smack UCLA. And I was thinking the line was going to be like 17, and USC would have been probably one of my favorite plays of the week. But now that it's 21.5, you have to win the game not only by 3 touchdowns, but more than 3 touchdowns. I do like the fact Wayman Jordan's coming back because King Miller, a walk-on, has held up the load at running back, but it's not been quite as explosive as it was when they had their backfield fully healthy. I think you have a large edge on offense here. Nico, I believe, got injured last week in the third quarter. You wonder what they're doing at the quarterback position. I think USC's the better team overall. At home, finish the season great, still can get to 10 wins. Lincoln Riley has said he's coming back for sure, so I think you'll have some enthusiasm. I'm just a little concerned about the spread being 21.5. 17 would have been one of my top plays. 21.5 now, like I said, you have to win by more than 3 touchdowns, but still a slight lean on USC.
All right. I'm going to fit Florida State onto the show here. Mike Norvell back as head coach at FSU in 2026. You want to get the vibes right going into the next season. Mike, let's get a win in the swamp. Florida State, they're going to have to practice fielding punts if they want to win this game. Back-to-back mishaps on special teams.
Wow.
Did the Knowles in at NC State on Friday night last week. One hit our guy right in the head, on the helmet.
Yep.
And
bounced
NC
40
State
yards that way.
Went 20 yards. Yeah, we got a lucky bounce. The check engine light came on in my car the next day. It's just been that kind of week. I mean, sometimes nothing goes right. The Gators not able to keep it close last week with Tennessee. Probably a talent edge for Florida here. They've got home field in this one. I think your average game grade, Phil, has FSU quite a bit above Florida, though. So that's why we're seeing such a tight line. Currently, I'm seeing Florida -1.5. What side do you like in this one?
Yeah, I got to go with, Florida has got the interim head coach. All the coaching staff is wondering where they're going to be next year. They're trying to get their deals done. And I think Florida, we saw them mail it in against Kentucky. And then last week against Tennessee, it just wasn't even a ball game. They were completely blown out of the water in the first half, 31-0, 323 to 110. What have you got left to play for? Meanwhile, as you mentioned, Florida State is bringing Mike Norvell back. They can still get to a bowl game this year. So you've got your coach coming back. Coaching staff's staying. They're not looking for jobs right now. You've got some talent. I like Castellanos, a quarterback. I like Deuce Robinson. I think one of the more underrated wide receivers in the country. And I think Florida State's just playing better football. So mindset-wise, huge edge to Florida State in this one. I like the Seminoles to go into the swamp, much like Tennessee did, and exercise some demons, come out of there with a win.
Yeah, I hope you're right. And Florida State, for all the issues they had earlier this season, the defense has played better the last few weeks. Got to give them a little credit. The defense has played better. I don't know how in the world you end up with 11 points against NC State's defense, but we got to move on because I could talk all day about that one.
Yes, we do.
We'll stay in the ACC. Virginia can clinch a spot in Charlotte for the ACC title game if they can beat Virginia Tech in Charlottesville on Saturday, 7:00 kickoff. Cavaliers off a bye. And before that, really one of their most impressive wins at Duke, I thought. They're laying 8.5 at home in this one against the Hokies, but this series has been all Virginia Tech. They've won 9 of the last 10 straight up. They've covered in 8 of those. All the statistical categories here, I see a lot of green arrows with the advantage pointing towards UVA. But we've got that word again here, pressure, a lot of pressure on Virginia this week. Can the Wahoos handle it?
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head, Trip. If you just blindly put these two teams on paper, lined them up side by side, I'd say Virginia by 14 and move on to the next game. I think Virginia is playing their best football right now. They hadn't been playing that earlier in the season. They struggled against Louisville with only 237 yards. Washington State, they struggled. North Carolina, they struggled. But now they're starting to play well. However, all the pressure is on Virginia. They need to win. There's all this talk about Virginia now, and where are we going to do? Can we get to the ACC title game? Can we get to the possible playoff? Virginia Tech's playing loose and free. I mean, and it's a rivalry game where Virginia Tech is absolutely dominated. So that's in the head of Virginia as well. Virginia players got to be thinking, here we go again if a bad play happens. Meanwhile, Virginia Tech's got to be thinking they're going to win. I like the way Pop Watson led them to the victory last year. They're down to their third-string quarterback, and they dominated Virginia in that game. So, and Virginia Tech's actually playing well. You go back to the Miami game. They put up 395 yards against Miami. In fact, that's a 28-17 game, and Virginia Tech's got the ball at midfield, and they fumble with like a minute to go. And then Miami, knowing they need style points, drives down, punches in a touchdown late. So it's much closer than 35-17. The Florida State game, they moved the ball well. So this offense is doing well. And you're getting over a touchdown, and Virginia's got all this pressure. They just need to win. I'm going to take Virginia Tech plus the points.
All right, Phil, 3 games left to pick here in the Week 14 slate of the college football season. We got the Iron Bowl up next. Number 10, Alabama at Auburn, 7:30 kickoff from Jordan-Hare. Before we get into the game, do want to remind everyone that the Can't Miss Kickoff Tour, their final stop of college football season, presented by Modelo with our friends at Home Field Apparel, is in Auburn for this one. Friday and Saturday, they have events on Friday night from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Go to Southeastern for a national championship ticket raffle, drink specials, complimentary snacks for the first 100 guests in Home Field Apparel, which I'm sporting right now, roll wave. And on Saturday from 2 to 7 p.m., so right before the game, go to Waldo's Chicken and Beer. They'll have another raffle, more drink specials, more snacks, a koozie giveaway, and a mystery shirt mania. We love our friends at Home Field Apparel. If you can't make it to Auburn for their final stop on the Can't Miss Kickoff Tour in the regular season, go to homefieldapparel.com. Use the code PHIL15 for 15% off your order. That's PHIL15 for 15% off your order. You can get a really cool long sleeve like this one for the Tulane Green Wave. All right, to the game. Alabama at Auburn, the Iron Bowl. Alabama is playing for the right to go to Atlanta. If they beat Auburn, they're in. If they lose, they're out. Georgia's in. Auburn, meanwhile, goes bowling with a win. But, Phil, you can really throw out the records when it comes to this game because anything can happen. The last 10 games at Jordan-Hare have been split, and the last 3 have been decided by a field goal or less. Alabama favored by just under a touchdown on the road. What you got?
Yeah, dangerous spot for Alabama. As you mentioned, Jordan-Hare is a place that Alabama always struggles. Needed a miracle one year to pull out the win. So it's been a tough place for them to play. But I do think overall Alabama is the stronger team. I'd like to see Alabama's flaw is the run game. They need to establish a better run game. But Ty Simpson, those receivers, defense is playing well. It's a really good Alabama team. And Auburn, they're a team that has the interim head coach. Who's the next coach going to be? All that stuff going on. I think Auburn comes to play, gives them all full effort. Crowd will be juiced up for it, but in the end, I see Bama, and I like the fact the spread's under a touchdown here. So the fact that it is under a touchdown, I'm going to lean with Bama. I think it'll be a tight game, but I'm going to call for Bama to win by 7 or maybe 10. So I'll take Bama in this one minus the 6.5.
All right, last one from me here. Huge one in New Orleans, not because of who Tulane is playing, but just because of the ramifications for the Green Wave. Number 24, Tulane hosting Charlotte. Wave, huge favorites by 30.5. Really, Tulane hosts the American Championship game next week as long as they win against Charlotte. They're currently the G5 representative in the CFP rankings. So it's really simple here, Phil. Tulane just needs to keep winning, and they control their own destiny, and they get a Charlotte team that's lost 8 in a row with every loss by double digits.
Yeah, and the defense for Charlotte is very bad. On the season, the last 3 weeks are giving up 533 yards per game, allowing their opponents almost 100 yards above their average. Tulane is a complete team. They've got a good defense. They've got Retzlaff at quarterback. They've got the run game, and they should be a huge favorite. The only concern I have here is once they've got next week's title game locked up, do you rest the players late in the fourth quarter with the big lead? No, you can't afford any injuries. That would be my own concern. But I think even then, Tulane just continues to roll. So Tulane hasn't been great spread-wise this year, but I like Tulane minus the points here.
All right, one last rivalry matchup in Raleigh. We've got UNC at NC State in Carter Finley Stadium. I'm sure they're going to be super welcoming to newcomer Bill Belichick. North Carolina, they kind of figured things out about a month ago, but since they've had back-to-back losses at Wake and against Duke last week, both games very competitive. NC State's defense, as I mentioned earlier, finally, I think they showed up for the first time all season, just in time for Florida State. They only gave up 11 points to the Noles. That's a season low outside of the Campbell game, where they gave up 10. So Florida State was able to get one more point than Campbell. That's great. Wolfpack, they've won the last 4 in the series. They've covered in the last 3. What do you like in this one, Phil?
Yeah, and I think you look at North Carolina and you look at the season overall and just 4-7, and you think, well, they're not very good. But, let's take a look at a couple of games. You go back to the Cal game, fumble into the end zone, or they would have won that game at the end. Virginia, they fumble in the end zone and miss a field goal, come up a point short. Then they beat Syracuse. The Stanford game, they were up 20-3, gave up the backdoor touchdown. The Wake Forest game, they gave up the fumble, quarterback fumbles, rolls around on the field, wide receiver picks the ball up, runs 50 yards for a touchdown. And then Wake scored a touchdown with like 20 seconds to go in the game, and all of a sudden it looks like a blowout loss. But as you touched on, it was a competitive game. And last week, the Duke game, North Carolina easily covers if Duke kicks that field goal. Easily covers. And yet they get the fake field goal for a touchdown. It turns out to be a point spread push. So I think North Carolina is playing much, much better than its record would indicate, and especially its spread record would indicate. I do think North Carolina State has an explosive offense. Love C.J. Bailey. And you look at the fact they're at home. Carter Finley dominated the series. I would still lean with the rivalry dog here. I think NC State wins the game, but I think North Carolina makes it a game much like they've been playing lately.
All right. That's it for the week 14 slate. Time for the top 3 plays of the week. Phil, we talked about it. Rough week last week, but over the last 9 weeks, a record of 19-7-1, which is excellent. What do you like this week?
Yeah, and I think if you tuned into the show last week and you threw out the record 19-4-1, people would have been like, well, that's not the record. Nobody has a record of 19-4-1. And then last week, we finally had some stuff catch up with us, and we went 0-3 last week. So 19-7-1, I will take that any day of the year for a 9-week spread during the season. Hopefully we get back on the winning track this week, but it's been a great run here. 3 of the games, and I've talked about them on the show, so I won't go in depth. I'm going to take Baylor minus the 2.5 over Houston, Pitt plus the 7 over Miami, and then Clemson plus the points over South Carolina. So 2 dogs, Pittsburgh and Clemson, to win out, possibly win outright, and then Baylor minus the points over Houston.
All right, and Phil, before we get out of here, do you want to just remind the viewers, the listeners, one more time what you've got going on at philsteele.com?
I appreciate that. Yeah, go to philsteele.com right now. And click on the front menu and take the Phil Steele Plus Tour with selections. You get 5 free selections, 5 quick hitters. The selections 23, 13, and 1 over the last 7 weeks. The quick hitters 33, 17, and 1 over the last 9 weeks. And I'm dying to hear your guys' plays this week, David.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, David, I was joking around earlier, like you throwing darts. Your darts keep hitting bullseye. So we need to, you've been on a heater, man. What do you got this week?
I have, and you know what? It's funny because I'm horrible at darts. Don't ever ask me to play darts on your team. Play against me because I'm so bad. But in this game of darts, yeah, we're hitting bullseyes, and we're gonna throw 2 more on the board because I only have a 1-game lead. So I don't want to finish tied. I want to be either above or below 500. I'm putting my chips fully into the table. So the first pick, it's an easy one because you continue to ride the horse that feeds you. Oklahoma, again, put it back on the table. -10. Give me the Sooners to continue to carry me to victory. And then I'm going to throw a shout out to the family. My father is watching up in Connecticut right now. My mom, my grandma, my cousins, my aunt, all tuning into the Phil Steele Show right now. Happy Thanksgiving, family. Dad, this is for you. Harvard, after getting stunned in the Ivy League championship game last week against Yale, they are a dog against Villanova, Phil. It's Villanova by 2.5. Give me the Crimson plus 2 and a hook. Yes, sir. Happy Thanksgiving, Dad.
Wow. Confident picks there. Gotta love that. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to the Khan family. I'm gonna listen. I don't mean to, this is kind of bland or whatever because Phil's already picked these. I do like Texas. I think Texas is just playing way better right now. I like the Longhorns at home. And I also agree with Phil on Virginia Tech. I think the Hokies are in a good spot here, and I think it's just a lot of pressure on a Virginia team that's not really used to being in that situation. So I like the Hokies there too. All right, boys, that's a show. Great job, great season, Phil. We can't tell you how much we appreciate all your time through 14 weeks here. It's been a lot of fun. This is the thing me and David look forward to most each week is doing this show with you. And we really appreciate your time.
And I appreciate you guys coming in on Thanksgiving to do the show this week for our listeners. So appreciate the extra. I work 365 days a week, but you guys coming in on Thanksgiving is really appreciated.
No place we'd rather be. To everybody watching, to everybody listening, have a great Thanksgiving and enjoy the games.